When you think of an iPhone, you might think about how good it looks, or maybe even how great it performs, but you might even think of how nostalgic it is. You may not even consider how this phone came to be and how it has changed the smartphone industry since its release in 2007. The first ever iPhone has to take credit for being such a breakthrough in the smartphone industry, but how was the first iPhone so good even though it might have almost been a failure? Hey guys, I'm Ethan from Alumni Tech 47, and today we are going to take a look at the first ever iPhone and see how it changed the smartphone industry in a way that we might have never thought of. So in the late 90s, Steve Jobs had a vision of a computer that would act as a PDA and would be the size of a tablet. So he created a prototype tablet that would do just that, but it was never good enough to hit the market because of its problems. So he laid off the project until the year 2005. In that year, he envisioned it again, and he wanted to try it again. But he was still afraid that the tablet would never take off. So he started small and instead wanted to create a smaller phone version of it instead. Thus, after 2.5 years of hard work, the iPhone was born. It may not look like much, but it was the foundation of what Apple would be like for the next generation of their company, as well as a foundation for other tech companies as well. The iPhone had a sturdy aluminum body as well as a glass front. The bottom of the phone had the black plastic for signal transparency, but it gave the first iPhone its nostalgic feel. And the design of the first iPhone was only part of the foundation. A significant factor of the iPhone was its functionality. It featured a 3.5-inch display that had multi-touch functionality. Steve Jobs was in no mood for any capacitive screens or styluses, but he still made it functional. With different widget apps and correct accessibility functionality, he made the iPhone better and easier to use than the previous phones. People were so amazed by how the phone was operated and what it could do, but there was still controversy. The most significant controversy was how the first iPhone only had 2G cellular speeds, and it could only be used with AT&T. That is why the first iPhone was called the iPhone 2G. Other controversy that a few people had was a little weird. Some people didn't like how the iPhone 2G didn't have any buttons or functionality, or how it didn't have a stylus, that they would be much better off using their PDA-like cell phone with their stylus since it is more convenient and functional. But their say never lasted long since the iPhone paved the way for other phone companies. And that is why the iPhone 2G was so great. And the reason for that is because a team of people thought this up from scratch. They had to design everything from square one, even the screen. But Apple still placed decent specs inside the iPhone 2G for its time. It had a screen with 165 pixel density and a CPU that could get the necessary jobs done. It has a Samsung 412 MHz ARM11 CPU and 128 MB of RAM. That's good enough for it to display a website, do YouTube, and to run all the other apps that you had. The camera here is 2 megapixels, which was good at the time. If you were in broad daylight, you could take some visible pictures. But the first iPhone didn't have video, as that wouldn't come out until the iPhone 3GS. The I/O for the iPhone was like the other Apple devices at the time. It had the 30-pin dock connector as the iPods did, but it had a recessed headphone jack. You could only plug in their headphones into it or something with a skinny headphone jack, but they did fix that in the following year. You then have the things that a phone has, like a speaker and mic, and buttons to turn it off and to adjust the volume. They were all decent and were just to get the job done. And with all those features, you have the best phone of the year 2007. But you can't really use this phone anymore. 2G cellular is no longer in the United States, as T-Mobile was the last carrier in the US to kill it off on December 31st of 2019. So even if you were to jailbreak the iPhone 2G and unlock it, there would be no point anymore. So you can just take a good look at this phone and admire what it had turned into. It had gotten better in every way and has left a great legacy. If you hold one of these phones, you get the feeling of innovation. You think about what Apple has done in the last 13 years, and you think about what they have gone through to make mobile technology a staple of life, and that is why the iPhone 2G was such a breakthrough and why it is so nostalgic. That is it for this video. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you can get video updates. You should also like this video and comment on what you think about the first iPhone. If you're interested, go follow me on Instagram and Twitter at AlumniTech47 so you can see behind the scenes and other updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.